Most people are lost because they have no rule, no standard, nothing they hold themselves accountable to. And that's why their life feels stuck. Today, I'm going to give you Owen rule that can rip you out of mediocrity and change your life forever. Listen, your life isn't complicated. It's not luck. It's not fate. It's discipline. The problem is you've been living without rules, without structure, without accountability. And that's why you keep failing yourself. One rule. That's all it takes to flip the script. One rule that you commit to, that you never break, that defines who you are. This isn't motivation. This is war. And if you follow this one rule, you'll never see yourself the same way again. You want to know why you're stuck? Why no matter how many plans you write, how many goals you set, how many times you say, this year will be different, nothing actually changes. It's because you've been lying to yourself your whole damn life. That's the disease. That's cancer. Not your job, not your environment, not your genetics. You, lying to yourself. Every single day you tell yourself a story that makes you feel better, but that story is the reason you keep losing. You wake up late, hit the snooze button and say, I'll start tomorrow. That's a lie. You look in the mirror, see the body you're ashamed of, and say, it's not that bad. I'll fix it later. That's a lie. You don't study, you don't work, you don't chase the things you said you wanted, and then you tell yourself, I just don't have the time. Another lie. The truth, you had the time. You had the chance. You had the ability. You just didn't want it bad enough. And instead of owning that, you chose to lie. See, people think the enemy is fear or laziness or even failure. But the real enemy is self-deception. Because once you start believing your own lies, you've already lost. You don't even need someone else to beat you. You beat yourself. That's the reality most people never face. And that's why the first rule, the only rule you need to change your life, is this: stop lying to yourself. Period. When you strip away the lies, you see the raw truth. And let me tell you something. Truth hurts. It's supposed to. Truth will punch you in the mouth harder than any opponent. But it's the only way forward. When you finally admit you're overweight because you've been lazy, that you're broke because you've been undisciplined, that you're weak because you've been hiding from pain, that's when you get power. Because now you're facing reality. Now you've got a target you can actually attack. Most people can't handle that. They want to live in comfort, in the little bubble of excuses they've created. That bubble feels safe. It feels warm. But inside you're dying. You're suffocating. And you wonder why you feel depressed, why you feel anxious, why every day feels like you're dragging chains behind you. It's because your soul knows the truth, and it's screaming at you while your mind keeps feeding it lies. I lived that way for years. I told myself I was doing okay when I was 300 pounds. I told myself life was just unfair. I told myself I couldn't do better. Lies, lies, lies. And every lie made me weaker. Every lie was a weight on my shoulders. But the day I stopped lying to myself, the day I looked in the mirror and admitted, you're fat, you're lazy, you're weak, and it's your fault, that was the day my life began to change. It wasn't motivation. It wasn't some magic plan. It was the truth. The truth broke me, but it also built me. So what's it going to take for you? How many more years are you going to keep lying to yourself about the job you hate, the body you hate, the life you hate? How many times are you going to say, tomorrow, when you know damn well tomorrow never comes? How many times are you going to promise yourself something in the mirror and then break it the next day? Do you want respect? Start with self-respect. Do you want discipline? Start with honesty. Do you want change? Start with the truth. Stop sugarcoating it. Stop making it sound better than it is. You're broke because you waste money. You're out of shape because you don't train. You're failing because you're not willing to suffer. That's it. No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to fix it. No one's going to sit you down and force you to stop lying. That's on you. That's the one rule you can't break. Because the second you break it, the second you tell yourself another lie, you're back at square one. The truth is the most painful weapon you'll ever hold, but it's also the most powerful. And until you face it, until you grab it with both hands and cut through every lie you've told yourself, nothing else will work. Everybody wants results, but nobody wants to show up. That's the truth. You look around and see people chasing success, chasing dreams, chasing a better life. But when the alarm clock rings, they don't move. When it rains, they don't move. When they're sore, when they're tired, when no one's clapping for them, they don't move. That's the difference between you and the person you want to become. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not some magical advantage. It's one thing showing up every damn day. Let me make this clear. You will never outsmart consistency. You can't cheat discipline. You can have all the motivation in the world. You can have all the hype videos, all the perfect plans. But if you don't show up when it hurts, you're nothing. That's why so many people quit on themselves. They want results in 2 weeks. They want success after one try. They want comfort and greatness at the same time. It doesn't work that way. Showing up every day means you stop negotiating with yourself. That's the battle most of you keep losing. You wake up and your brain starts whispering, stay in bed, take it easy. You've earned it. No one will know if you skip today. That's the war zone. And every time you hit snooze, every time you skip the workout, every time you say, I'll do it later, you lose ground. You train your mind to accept weakness. You train your body to expect comfort. But when you show up, when you drag yourself out of bed at 5 a.m., even though you only slept 3 hours, when you go to the gym with sore muscles, when you sit down to grind on your craft while everyone else is out partying, you're rewiring yourself. You're teaching your brain a new language. A language that says, I don't break. I don't skip. I won't quit. That's the real transformation. Not the six-pack, not the paycheck, not the applause. The real transformation is who you become when you refuse to disappear. And let me tell you something. You're not always going to feel like it. In fact, most of the time you won't. People wait around for motivation like it's oxygen. But motivation is nothing. It fades. It lies to you. Some days you'll wake up fired up. Some days you'll wake up empty. Doesn't matter. Showing up means you do it anyway. You lace up your shoes when you're tired. You study when your brain is foggy. You practice when the crowd is gone. Because that's where the edge is. That's where you separate yourself from everybody else. When I was training for ultras, there were mornings I could barely walk. My knees were shot, my feet were destroyed, my back was on fire. Everything in my body screamed, don't go today. But the rule was clear, show up, no matter what. And every time I forced myself out the door, I was building a weapon. Not a body, not a record, a weapon. A mind that doesn't care how it feels. That's what you need to build. Because when life hits you, and it will, it doesn't care about your feelings either. Most people break because they've built their lives on feelings. They do the work when it's easy, they show up when it's convenient, and they disappear when it's hard. That's why they stay average. That's why they keep starting over every year, every month, every Monday. Because they've never trained the muscle of consistency. They've never made showing up non-negotiable. Ask yourself right now, how many times have you quit on yourself because it was raining, because you were tired, because nobody was watching? That's the proof. That's why you are where you are. Because showing up every day is the only path, and you keep trying to find a shortcut. But here's the truth, there is no shortcut. There is no hack. There is no magic. You earn it one day at a time, one rep at a time, one step at a time. Even when you don't see results. Show up even when it feels pointless. Show up even when no one gives a damn. Because every day you show up, you're putting bricks down. And one day, when you least expect it, you'll look back and realize you built a wall no one can break. So the rule is simple. Stop waiting for the perfect day. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for life to get easier. Show up now. Show up today. Show up tomorrow. Show up until it becomes who you are. Because at the end of the day, greatness doesn't belong to the talented. It doesn't belong to the lucky. It belongs to the person who refuses to miss. You keep running from pain like it's the enemy. Every time life gets uncomfortable, you back off. Every time it hurts, you look for the easy road. That's why you're stuck. That's why you're weak. That's why you can't get where you want to go. Because you still believe that comfort is your friend, when in reality it's the killer. Comfort is the silent poison that robs you everything you could be. The truth is simple. If you want to shine later, you've got to suffer now. There's no way around it. You see people who look unstoppable, who seem built differently, and you think they're lucky. You think they were born with it. But what you don't see are the years of suffering behind the scenes. The nights they stayed up grinding, the mornings they dragged themselves through workouts with broken bodies, the sacrifices no one ever clapped for. That's the price. That's the rule. Suffer now, shine later. The problem with most of you is you want both. You want the shine without the scars. You want the victory without the pain. You want respect without sacrifice. But life doesn't work like that. You can't skip suffering and expect to build greatness. You can't avoid struggle and still grow. You can't dodge pain and somehow become strong. That's not how the game is played. When you choose to suffer, you're choosing transformation. Pain is the tool that breaks you down and rebuilds you into something new. Without it, you stay soft. Without it, you stay average. You don't grow in comfort, you rot there. That's why every time you take the easy way out, every time you avoid the hard thing, you're actually choosing weakness. You're voting against your own potential. Think about it. When was the last time you were proud of yourself for doing something easy? You don't remember because it doesn't exist. Pride comes from pain. Pride comes from facing something you didn't think you could survive and walking out the other side knowing you did. That's where confidence comes from. That's where self-respect is built. Not in the easy, not in the convenient, not in the comfortable, in the suffering. I used to hate pain. I ran from it every chance I got. That's why I stayed fat, stayed weak, stayed stuck in the same life for years. Every time it got hard, I quit. Every time I felt pain, I looked for a way out. And every time I quit, I got smaller. My life got smaller. My dreams got smaller. My potential got smaller. That's what avoiding pain does. It shrinks you. It cages you. It kills you slowly. But when I flipped the script, when I started chasing pain instead of running from it, everything changed. I started doing the things that terrified me. I started embracing the workouts that left me broken. I started leaning into the suffering I once avoided. And little by little, I realized something powerful. Pain isn't the enemy. Pain is the teacher. Pain is the gatekeeper to the life you want. That's why I tell you, suffer now, shine later. Because if you don't suffer now, you'll suffer forever. You'll suffer with regret. You'll suffer with mediocrity. You'll suffer with a life you don't respect. At least when you choose suffering today, you're investing in freedom tomorrow. You're investing in a version of yourself that commands respect, that can handle anything, that doesn't break when life comes for them. Every rep that burns, every mile that feels impossible, every sacrifice you make when your body and mind are screaming at you to quit, that's the suffering that builds the foundation. That's the suffering that pays off later. And let me tell you, the shine isn't about money. It isn't about applause. It isn't about looking good on social media. The shine is knowing you did the work. The shine is knowing you didn't take shortcuts. The shine is looking in the mirror and seeing someone you don't have to lie to anymore. So stop running from it. Stop thinking pain is punishment. Stop treating suffering like it's the problem. The real problem is the comfort you've been drowning in. The soft life that's made you weak. The excuses you keep clinging to so you don't have to hurt. That's the trap. And the only way out is through suffering. Every time you hurt, you're building. Every time you suffer, you're laying bricks. Every time you push past the threshold where most people quit, you're becoming someone unstoppable. And when the day comes that life throws something at you that would destroy the old version of you, you'll smile because you've already been through worse. You've already suffered by choice, so nothing by force can break you. Everybody's chasing motivation like it's the secret. You scroll through videos, you read quotes, you listen to speeches, and for a few minutes you feel unstoppable. But then the feeling fades and you're right back where you started. That's the trap. That's why you keep falling off. You're addicted to a feeling instead of committed to a standard. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. And until you understand that, you're going to keep spinning your wheels wondering why nothing changes. Motivation is weak because it depends on your emotions. It shows up when the weather's good, when you're rested, when the path looks clear. But the second thing gets ugly, motivation disappears. Discipline doesn't care about any of that. Discipline is ruthless. Discipline doesn't ask if you're tired, if you're stressed, if you're sore, if you're scared. Discipline says, you said you'd do it, now do it. That's the voice you need to listen to. That's the rule that changes everything. Think about it. How many times have you felt motivated to start something new? A diet, a workout plan, a project, a business idea. Day 1, you're on fire. Day 2, still going strong. But by day 5, day 10, day 30, you're done. You're back to old habits because motivation ran out. The feeling wasn't enough to carry you through the pain. The feeling wasn't strong enough to pull you out of bed when it was cold, when it was dark, when no one cared. That's why the world is full of starters and empty of finishers. Because starters depend on motivation and finishers depend on discipline. Discipline is simple, but it's brutal. It's waking up at the time you said you would, no matter how late you went to bed. It's sticking to the plan, even when your whole body is begging for a break. It's doing the reps when your muscles are burning, writing the pages when your brain is empty, grinding through the silence when nobody is clapping for you. Discipline is the promise you make to yourself and the proof that you're not weak enough to break it. You want to know why most people hate themselves deep down? Because they break their own promises. They say they'll change, they don't. They say they'll commit, they quit. They say they'll push harder, but the first sign of discomfort, and they fold. That's why self-respect is rare. That's why confidence is rare. Because real confidence doesn't come from how you look or what you own. Real confidence comes from knowing you can trust yourself. That when you say you're going to do something, you'll do it. No matter how you feel. That's discipline. And let me tell you, discipline is not glamorous. It's not sexy. It's boring. It's repetitive. It's showing up day after day and grinding when nothing's changing, when nobody notices, when you don't feel like it. That's why most people can't handle it. They want fireworks. They want excitement. They want instant results. But discipline is a long game. Discipline is planting seeds every day, knowing damn well it might be years before you see the harvest. But when the harvest comes, when the results finally break through, that's when the shine is real. That's when the world looks at you and calls you lucky. They don't see the years of discipline. They only see the payoff. You've got to decide what drives you. If you're driven by feelings, you'll lose every time. Feelings are soft. Feelings are inconsistent. But if you're driven by a rule, if you're driven by discipline, you become unstoppable. Because discipline doesn't leave. Discipline doesn't change with the weather. Discipline doesn't vanish when life punches you in the face. Discipline is the backbone, the anchor. The one thing you can hold on to when everything else falls apart. Look at your life right now. Every area where you're failing is an area where you're depending on motivation instead of discipline. You're overweight because you only work out when you feel like it. You're broke because you only grind when you're inspired. You're stuck because you only chase goals when it's convenient. Switch that rule. Make it discipline over motivation and watch how everything changes. Because once you stop asking, do I feel like it? And start saying, I said I'd do it. You win. You win against the voice in your head. You win against the comfort. You win against the weakness that's been running your life. Motivation is the spark, but discipline is the fire. And the fire is what keeps burning long after the spark is gone. Motivation will start the race, but discipline will drag you across the finish line. Motivation will make you dream, but discipline will make you build. Motivation will tell you it's possible, but discipline will prove it. That's the difference. That's the rule you've been searching for, the secret, the shortcut to hack. But there's only one truth. It comes down to rules. One rule. One decision you never break. Stop lying to yourself. Show up every damn day. Suffer now so you can shine later. Choose discipline over motivation. That's it. That's the blueprint. That's the foundation. You don't need another plan. You don't need another excuse. You don't need another someday. You need to lock in on one rule and bleed for it until it becomes who you are. Because the second you break it, you're done. But the second you keep it every single day, you become unstoppable.